911, what's your emergency? She's not breathing. My wife. I think she's been stabbed. Please, send help. There's blood everywhere. Sir, I need you to stay calm. What's your address? 112 Willow Creek Lane. Please hurry. She's still warm. I don't think she's... Oh my God. Please. It was a quiet Wednesday morning in late October at Willow Creek, Virginia, a town with a population of 8,200 people. The kind of morning where fog draped over the hills like a wet blanket and windshields had to be scraped before work. The kind of day that should have been unremarkable, peaceful. But at exactly 6:42 a.m., that peace shattered with a single, frantic phone call. Mark Sullivan, a 38-year-old regional manager for a construction supply firm, called 911 from the front lawn of his two-story colonial home. His voice was shaky, desperate. He claimed he'd found his wife, Emily, dead in their bedroom, stabbed in the chest. Police officers from the Willow Creek PD arrived 8 minutes later. Paramedics even faster. They found Emily Sullivan lying on the floor beside the bed, a nightgown soaked in blood. Her hair was matted, her eyes partially open. A large kitchen knife lay on the carpet, clean, too clean, almost placed. And yet, her body was still warm. To the neighborhood, Mark was the guy who mowed not just his lawn, but sometimes the neighbors too. He grilled steaks for the block party every 4th of July. He left flowers on his wife's windshield just because. Emily, a second-grade teacher at Willow Creek Elementary, was universally loved. She ran bake sales. She volunteered for food drives. The PDA adored her. They were the kind of couple people pointed to and said, "Those two, they've got it all figured out." So when Emily was found dead in her own home, everyone assumed the worst kind of random evil had struck. A break-in gone wrong. A stalker. A psychotic drifter. Something other. But within 24 hours, that narrative would begin to crack. Detective Alan Rossner arrived that same morning, cigarette in one hand, notebook in the other. He had 22 years on the force and a gut that was almost always right. And from the moment he stepped inside the Sullivans' bedroom, his gut told him, this doesn't feel right. There were no signs of forced entry. The windows were locked from the inside. No broken glass. No muddy footprints on the floor. The alarm system had been disarmed manually at 5:58 a.m. And then there was the knife. It wasn't bloody. It wasn't hidden. It was lying perfectly horizontal at the foot of the bed, like a stage prop. Staged, Rossner muttered under his breath. The MIS preliminary report confirmed Emily had been stabbed once, cleanly, just below the sternum. No signs of struggle. No defensive wounds. She had likely died between 5:45 and 6:15 a.m. Rossner stared at the timeline. Alarm system disabled at 5:58 a.m. 911 call placed at 6:42 a.m. 8-minute delay between last alarm trigger and death. No foreign DNA found on the knife. Handle wiped clean. It didn't add up. And Mark's behavior didn't either. At the station, Mark was cooperative. Calm. A little too calm. He told the officers the same thing over and over. I woke up early for work. I went downstairs to make coffee. When I came back up, she was lying there. I thought she was sleeping. But there was blood. So much blood. He said he didn't hear anything. Didn't see anyone. Didn't know how someone could have entered the home. When asked why the alarm was disabled, he paused. Maybe Emily turned it off to let the cat out. She usually does that. Except she didn't. The cat had been locked in the laundry room all night. Emily's best friend, Claire Weston, showed up at the station that afternoon. She was pale, trembling, mascara smudged from crying. They were having problems, she said. She told me a week ago she was going to leave him. Rosner's ears perked up. Why? She found out about an affair. Some girl from his office. 26. She had screenshots, emails, hotel receipts, the whole thing. Mark never mentioned any affair. That changed everything. Detectives obtained a warrant for Mark's bank and credit card records. What they found was motive gold, credit card maxed out, several large cash withdrawals in recent weeks, a new life insurance policy taken out on Emily just 2 months prior, $750,000 payout to Mark. When Rosner asked Mark about it, he shrugged. We got it after her cousin died. Just being cautious. You never know, right? Too convenient. Too calculated. Audio experts listened to the 911 recording multiple times. Right before Mark speaks, barely audible, they detected something strange. A click. Then footsteps. Then a door closing. The theory? He called 911 after staging the scene, after wiping the knife and placing it, and the blood still being warm. He waited too long to make the call, but not long enough. 3 days after Emily's funeral, a neighbor across the street came forward with security footage. It showed Mark leaving the house at 6:12 a.m., empty-handed. He returned at 6:29 a.m. That's 17 minutes he never accounted for. When Detective Rosner asked where he went, Mark simply said, I was in shock. I walked. I needed air. But Rosner already knew where he'd been. He was about to pull footage from the convenience store 2 blocks down. Mark had been seen buying gloves, bleach, and a bag of ice at 6:15 a.m. After discovering the neighbor's security footage of Mark Sullivan leaving the house at 6:12 a.m., 30 minutes before the 911 call, Detective Alan Rosner had all he needed to push forward. The timing alone was damning. Even more so was what Mark did during that missing 17-minute window. He drove to a local convenience store and was caught on surveillance camera purchasing bleach, gloves, and a bag of ice. A grieving husband doesn't clean, Rosner told his partner. He breaks down. He panics. He doesn't shop for crime scene supplies. Still, it wasn't enough for an arrest. Yet, detectives traced one of Mark's most recent credit card charges to a hotel 2 towns over. A week prior to Emily's murder, he had spent 2 nights at a Hampton Inn under a fake name, Michael Sanders. When they dug into the hotel's records and surveillance footage, the woman with him was easy to identify. Her name was Jenna Leary, 26, administrative assistant at Mark's office. She had blonde hair, a nervous smile, and, when approached by investigators, a sudden need to talk. He told me they were separated, she said. He said Emily was abusive, that she was unstable. I didn't even know she was dead until you showed up. But Jenna's shock turned to fear when she realized the police were already suspicious of Mark. She opened her phone, scrolling through text messages, emails, photos, all revealing a very different story. Soon, it'll just be us, baby. No more drama. No more lies. She's been acting weird. I don't know how much longer I can deal with it. And then, one message sent 2 days before the murder. I know what I have to do. You trust me, right? Investigators seized Mark's laptop and phone. What they found was damning. Google searches. How long does it take for a body to go cold? Bleach for DNA cleanup. Can you be convicted without a murder weapon? A deleted note titled Plan recovered from cloud backups. GPS data confirming his trip to the store during the critical 6:12 to 6:29 window. He had thought he was smart, but not smarter than the cloud. Forensics had been puzzled by the lack of blood on Mark's clothing the morning of the murder. But in Jenna's photo archive was a selfie Mark had sent from his truck the night before, wearing a distinctive blue flannel shirt. That shirt was not found. A team of search volunteers was sent to comb the wooded trail near the Sullivan home. 3 hours in, buried under leaves near a drainage pipe, they found it. The shirt was soaked in Emily's blood. On November 14th, just 17 days after the murder, police knocked on Mark Sullivan's door. He answered in sweatpants, coffee in hand, calm as ever. "We are placing you under arrest for the murder of your wife, Emily Sullivan." He blinked, smiled faintly. "Guess the grieving period's over, huh?" No denial, no surprise. He went quietly. The trial started in May of the following year. The prosecutor's opening line stopped the courtroom cold. This isn't just a case about murder. It's a case about performance. A husband who cried on cue, then cleaned with bleach. The jury was shown the 911 call, the security footage from the convenience store, text to Jenna, the shirt, the new insurance policies, Google searches, the staged crime scene and the final blow. Jenna took the stand. She cried, shaking, reading the message he sent just hours before the murder. "She's asleep. Time to end this mess." Mark's attorney argued the evidence was circumstantial. The GPS data? He went to clear his head. The Google searches? He was writing a true crime book. The shirt? Planted. The texts? Misinterpreted. The jury didn't buy it. After 4 days of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As he was led away, he turned to Jenna, who had watched the verdict from the back of the courtroom. He smiled. "You said you wanted a clean break. You got it." At the sentencing, Emily's mother read a statement. "My daughter was the kind of person who lit up a room, who believed in second chances, who deserved a full life. She trusted the wrong man. But justice found her." A bench now sits in front of Willow Creek Elementary where she taught second grade. It reads, "In memory of Mrs. Sullivan. Loved. Never forgotten." Mark Sullivan sat motionless as the judge delivered his sentence. Life without parole. No reaction. No tears. No apology. Just a quiet, hollow man, staring ahead as if the words didn't belong to him. The courtroom was dead silent except for a single sob. It came from Emily's sister, who held their mother's hand with trembling fingers. They had shown up every day, every hearing, every gruesome photo, every lie. The prosecution had left nothing to chance. The surveillance footage, the bleach, the mistress, the deleted file named Plan. It was a tapestry of guilt, stitched together with threads Mark never thought anyone would pull. And Jenna, she disappeared. She gave her testimony and then vanished from the public eye. No interviews, no statements, only rumors, whispers about a breakdown, a relocation, a name change. She would forever be the footnote in a tragedy she didn't fully author, but helped write. But it was Emily's name that echoed the loudest in Willow Creek. At the elementary school, her old classroom sat empty for nearly a year. No teacher could bear to step into it. The kids left notes in the cubbies, drawings on the board, One child even taped a flower to the door every morning before class. A bench was installed in her memory, right under the oak tree where she used to supervise recess. The plaque reads, "In memory of Mrs. Sullivan, loved, lost, never forgotten." And every spring, the daffodils she planted still bloom. Detective Rosner retired 6 months after the conviction. He said he'd seen enough, that sometimes the worst monsters weren't the ones who broke in, but the ones who tucked you in at night. He now lives on a lake. He doesn't watch the news anymore. Mark appealed his conviction twice. Both were denied. There are rumors he's teaching classes behind bars. Psychology. Ironically, they say he smiles too much, that he still claims he was framed, that he talks about Emily like she's still alive. But here's what the jury never got to hear: that just a week before her death, Emily had started journaling again. A private diary, locked in a file on her tablet, found only after the trial. It wasn't admissible, but it was damning. Her last entry read, "If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. I know Mark. I know what he's capable of. He promised me silence, and Mark always keeps his promises." Those words never made it to court, but they haunt everyone who's ever read them. A voice from beyond the grave, calling out with clarity. And in the end, that voice was louder than his alibi. In small towns like Willow Creek, some stories don't just end. They echo. In the hallways, in the church pews, in the silence that follows a police siren, and in the questions no one dares to ask out loud. How do you mourn someone who lived with a monster? And how do you forgive the monster if he wore the mask of a husband? At Crime Chronicles, every crime leaves a trace and we follow it. For more true crime stories, subscribe to our channel at Crime Chronicles 365.